special days and see if any of them are related to what you do. There's a PR lady in Birmingham who, when she was setting up her business, she discovered that there was no special day for working mums. So she decided she'd start one. And so National Working Mothers Day was conjured out of the air, and that was her thing. And it was really successful because loads of people interviewed her about it, and she's still doing interviews about it. And it's a really, really good technique. It's a way of giving yourself an angle. So find the anniversary that is relevant to what you do. Ale is local. It's kind of it's similar to the relevant one in a sense, but if you are appealing to your local media, it absolutely has to be a local story, or they won't be interested. But there are ways of localizing stories. Like, for example, if a national set of statistics about something comes out, and it's in your area, and you think you might be able to comment on it, ask what the breakdown is for your area, and then you can give a local story about it. If there is no, and you can even work it out actually. If there is no official local breakdown, you could work out what's the population of the country, and then the population of the area you're talking about, and come up with just a rough figure, and say, this number of people could be suffering from this thing that I'm talking about. So that's a way of giving yourself a local angle. And if it's there used to be a cartoon on the wall of the Walthamstow Guardian about a guy that was stabbed in the back and bleeding profusely from a wound, and he was crawling across the border to Hackney, which was the next borough, and saying with his dying breath, "Thank God it won't be in the Walthamstow Guardian," because it wouldn't, because it was across the border, so it was out of their territory, and they were a bit picky about, even murders that happened slightly over the border would not be reported in there. And the final category is engaging, which is about grabbing the heartstrings. It's an extension of the human thing, but the way the human brain works, the left-hand side of the brain is to do with logic, very, very crudely, and the right-hand side is to do with emotion. The memory and the sense of liking or disliking and interest is much more tied up with the right-hand emotional side of the brain. And so are pictures. So if you can think of a picture that goes with your story, that's another thing that's very well worthwhile doing. If you're a photographer, you've cracked it, haven't you? Because you're doing pictures all the time. But there is a saying that the best pictures are on the radio. And that's because the pictures on the radio are created inside your head. So when you are devising what you're going to say to the media, try to make it as pictorial and visual as possible, because that will make it memorable. So once you've got your story, can anybody think of something that they could publicise then as a result of looking down that list? Does anybody have any bright ideas? You've got a bright idea, Maggie.
Yes, in Bristol.
Yes.
We could definitely do with some press releases.
Yep.
Because it's such a gem, and yet while our target of an audience is around about 60, we do really well, but we generally fall short by about 15 on that, and I don't know if I'm answering your question, but it's something like...
Sounds like you're giving me a job rather than answering a question.
Is that a good move? It's not a bad move, is it?
Well, I might get Nicola to help me.
Yeah. But for example, it is like a job when we volunteer. And even though we've got something that's very beneficial, apart from what we pay the venue, the money goes to charity. Nobody gets paid. We all volunteer for nothing. So in here we don't talk about conflict much. So I'm not sure how we get conflict in.
Well, it's a battle to bring the numbers up, isn't it? You're competing with other things you might do in an evening, I suppose.
We're also competing with changing we're trying to change the world. Little bit at a time, aren't we?
Mm. Yes, okay.
Is
Your
there a
battle to
conflict
change the
in there?
world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, I've been thinking for ages that there's sort of, I'm sure there's an angle in, now that the traditional church services are less well attended, people have a void for getting together and thinking about interesting stuff. And it's kind of, the S group kind of fills that void in a way, doesn't it? It's not sort of party political in its spiritualness.
We're educational, I think, aren't we?
That's quite interesting, because I think a lot of people nowadays identify themselves as being more spiritual rather than religious.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what you've just said about people moving away from the churches,
Yeah.
that opens up the thing, because more people are moving towards spirituality, which is covered by the Yes Group.
And that's an oddity, isn't it? Because we're not really doing spirituality. What we're doing is mind control or mindfulness.
You're doing mind control, are you, Maggie?
That's how you got us here. Maggie meant mind management.
Well, I mean, it's
Somebody else could have said that much better than me.
any kind of persuasion, isn't it? Is a way of making you anything to do with advertising or marketing is attempting to change your mind about something, isn't it? It's not really any different from that. It's not necessarily malign. Well, it might be. Yeah. Okay. There's one website that I ought to tell you about, which is quite interesting, which is helpareporter.com. And that's a that's a website for people who would like to be spokesmen on whatever your special topic is. And it's if you go on there. I haven't been on it, so I don't know if it works. But the idea is that reporters phone you up if they're writing an article about the thing that you're an expert on, and you get to be quoted in the media. So it's a good idea. It's mostly American, but still a useful thought. So press releases. The conventional way of getting things into the media is you either phone up the journalists and talk to them. You might be able to do that. If you've researched your audience under the relevant category, you might think, okay, what I want to do is get an article in the Gloucester Citizen or whatever it is. They will probably have on their website a pro forma thing that you fill in with your news story. That very rarely pays results. What it does pay to do, though, is spot the names of the reporters that work for this thing that it is. And if you find an article by a named reporter that's along the lines that you're interested in, and then contact them directly, say something nice about an article that they've written before, and say, well, I thought you wrote this, and you were very good the way you reported on this topic. You might possibly be interested in my story, which is X, Y, Z, and that's often a very good way in with reporters. So think about doing that. You can do that with local radio, and certainly the trade press, because the trade press is so specialist and they are run by a very small number of people, and they always need the help of people phoning in and suggesting stories to them. If you do a formal press release, there's a few rules to bear in mind. It's in the form of an email nowadays, and the subject line ought to be the words press release and then the headline of the story. Try and think of a good headline. Don't bust a gut trying to think of a brilliant headline, because they'll probably rewrite it anyway. But it has to be interesting enough to make them think, that sounds weird. That sounds odd. Tell me more. The purpose of a headline is to make you stop and read the next bit. And the purpose of the intro, that's the first sentence of the press release, is to make you read the rest of the press release. And unlike a business report, a press release is structured with the most important bits at the top, and then it's decreasing order of importance, so that if you're in a hurry, you can cut it from the bottom if there's not enough space to fit in what you have. So headline is tantalizing nugget, then the first sentence or the intro sums up the story, and then you put a quote, direct speech quote that says, "This is the best thing since sliced bread," said Chairman Fred Bloggs or whatever, and then you carry on with the facts of the story. And then when you get to the bottom, all the boring bits about, I mean, there's people who write press releases badly. Local authorities and large corporations are forever falling over each other, trying to give credit to various partners and subsidiaries and associates who had a part in the story that they're talking about, and it really clogs it up. You know, the money was provided by X bank in association with this council, and that's boring. So you put that at the end. There's a convention called notes to editors. So you say what the thing is that you're talking about, and then right at the bottom, you write the word ends in capital letters, and then underneath you say notes to editors. The initiative that we're discussing in this press release was funded by X, Y, and Z, and you can put in all the boring details there because it's probably not going to be published, that bit. And then right at the bottom, you put your contact details, because there's nothing more frustrating than for a journalist to look at a press release and then think, well, that sounds really interesting, I'll phone them up, and then you discover that they've gone on holiday. So don't issue a press release when you're not going to be available, because they may want more information from you. They may want to arrange something like a photograph. Oh, that's another thing to put in the notes to editors at the bottom. Photograph and filming opportunities and interview opportunities with somebody, because they're often going to want to take it further. And then you ping it off. If you don't get any response after a couple of days, it's perfectly okay to ring them up and say, did you get my email? Did you get my press release? What do you think of the story? And if we're talking about trade publications, you can also ring them up and just say, what kind of stories are you interested in? This is the area that I deal with. Might that be possibly of interest to you? Because it's important in your research as well to find out what their publication dates are and deadlines and lead times. If you want to get something in a glossy magazine, which can be very, very powerful, and most counties have got one, most parts of Bristol have got something that's a bit high class and special, they've got incredibly long lead times. It could be months. So be aware of that. And you can actually, if you're drawing yourself up a target media list, you can just phone them all up and ask what the key dates are. If I want to get something in your July issue, when do I have to get it to you? And in what form and how long and all that? And what are the names of the people that I need to talk to? And that's it. Apart from that, you're on your own. Any questions? Out you go. Write a press release.
How many column inches do you think there are press releases to news actually written by the editor of the magazine, for example?
Oh, well, it varies very much, but there are new little magazines are springing up, I notice. We've got 2 or 3 in South Bristol, which are written by one person, usually. And they're really grateful for anything you send them, because they haven't got very much resources. They haven't got any time. So if you send a journalist a press release and it's well written and it reads journalistically, they're highly delighted and they'll print it verbatim. But don't just send them a copy of your annual report and think that they're going to make a story out of it, because they won't. Okay, any questions? Yes?